Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get started. The candidate forum for City Council, First District, Peoria. And just a couple of comments. Candidates have a table in the back where they can leave any handouts or information that they have brought to share. So check that out. Also, make sure that your phones are muted. The restrooms are just outside and to the right. And a reminder that while the primary election for the city of Peoria is going on, the election for these two candidates is in the general election, and that early voting starts for that on March 17th, and election day is April 1st. So be sure you vote. So good afternoon. I'm Connie Romanis. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Greater Peoria. And on behalf of the League and the Peoria Library, Public Library, we'd like to welcome you to this candidate forum today. We have James Kepner and Denise Jackson, our candidates for District 1. We appreciate those of you who are here and also those who are joining us on our live stream channel on YouTube. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We don't endorse any candidates or any political parties. We do take positions on issues after a lengthy study process. One of our core missions of the League is voter education, and we do this through candidate forums. The League of Women Voters has been doing this for many years across the United States, and it is our way for you to hear directly from the candidates. So when you go to vote, you can make an informed decision. We hope you'll walk away from here with a little more information about the issues in the community, the candidates themselves, and be sure that you vote on election day or early or by mail. So we've got lots of options. And I think those are all the reminders that we have right now. So I'm going to turn this over to our moderator, Chris Kiergaard, and he will take it away.
All right. Thank you, Connie, and welcome to both of our candidates who are here today. Thank you both for joining us to talk a little bit more about these issues. As Connie said, I'm Chris Kiergaard. I am your moderator for the day. I want to go over the ground rules for this that the candidates have agreed to in advance and sort of make sure everyone in the audience is on the same page with what to expect during this. Our candidates have agreed to rules that allow for a 2-minute opening statement for each of them. Each candidate will be asked the same question. They will each have a minute to respond to each of the questions. They will have 1 minute for closing statements. But if during the debate, a candidate wishes to have time to specifically offer a rebuttal to something that was said, they will let me know. They have 2 opportunities for this, and they will have 30 seconds immediately after their opponent finished speaking to offer that rebuttal. And then we will resume our regular order. That regular order has been drawn by a lots. In the lowest draw that I can remember, we picked cards for it, and Mr. Kepner will begin with the opening statement. Ms. Jackson will follow, and then we'll respond to the first question, and we'll move back and forth like that for the remainder of our hour here. We'll be concluding at or shortly before 3:30. Again, as Connie mentioned, we are live streaming this, and it is being recorded as part of that for future viewing on YouTube. By virtue of that, we encourage everybody in the audience to please remain as silent as possible throughout the event, and no clapping or speaking directly to the candidates during that. The candidates may choose to stay afterward and respond one-on-one to questions or comments that you may have after we're done at the front table here, but we ask that during the forum, everyone remain silent and give them and our viewing audience the opportunity to hear as well as they can. For our candidates, I'll also let you know, you don't need to have the microphone right up against your face, but try your best to keep it somewhat close so that we have a good audio pickup on it. For all of you who come up with questions during the event that you would like to have asked, please write it down. There are note cards available, both outside, you probably grabbed one when you came in, or we have some wonderful assistants who are helping out and will go around the room, so feel free to signal to one of them and they will bring the questions up to me and I will try my best to work them into the order. Sometimes I may combine questions that are similar into a single question, or candidates may, and this happened in the last forum, candidates may actually respond on an issue before a question sent in on a note card can be asked. I believe that is everything that we need to get through, so let us get rolling, starting with a 2-minute introduction from Mr. Kepner.
All right, thank you very much. It's like karaoke night here. So I'm the new face here, so I want to spend my 2 minutes introducing myself. First off, thank you to the League of Women Voters. It's a great opportunity. Thank you for having me here. Go vote. So I'm James Kemper. I live at 1630 West Parkside Drive. I am smack dab in the middle of the 1st District. That's where I reside. My office is a stone's throw away from the 1st District on the riverfront. And in 2 words, what I am a hard worker. I was brought up by 2 hardworking parents. My mom had me when she was 16. She ended up being valedictorian of her class, even though she had me at 16. Went on to become an accountant without a college education. Beacon Insurance, was a member of the board. Wonderful woman, great role model for me. So I love the woman. My stepfather, who raised me, was a factory line worker at Caterpillar. He also was a hard worker. We had 5 acres. We did sweet corn there. I cannot remember not working. I remember as a little kid, the warm eggs that I went and got, little tiny kid doing that. Scooping poop. I understand that that's something that's good for city council. I detasseled corn, did all sorts of things like that. You name the job, I did it. Went to the military at age 17. ICC, Bradley. I have a master's degree from the San Francisco Institute of Architecture. Philip Swager Associates worked there. I think you know that, Rob. I was the youngest stockholder ever there. Hard work to get there. Design director by age 30. Started a firm in 2009, DeMonica Kemper Architects. We started with 4 people. Hard work got us to 30 now. In short, if I am elected, I will work hard for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Jackson.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
I think you may have.
Okay, thank you. First of all, to the League of Women. Is it on?
Here.
Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to talk to you all a little bit about me. As you all know, I'm Denise Jackson. I am a lifelong Peoria resident. I've lived here most of my life, with the exception of 11 years when I lived in upstate New York. And I have embarked on a second career. After broadcasting for about 30 years, I decided to come back and to go into teaching. So I'm currently a teacher at Elise Fort Allen Academy. I have been a neighborhood association president for about 15 years now. I also am involved in, I've been a board member in the Tri-County Urban League, and I am fortunate, I've been able to serve on the Peoria City Council for the last 3 years. And I'm happy because before I got elected to the council, I had an action plan. And it entailed safety, it entailed stormwater projects. It also dealt with this whole issue of illegal dumping. I have been involved with litter, helping young people pick up litter in and around our community. And we've noticed the South Side had becoming a dumping ground. And so I have instituted a series of efforts to help clear that up. And we have, as a result, seen some of that problem rectified. But my job is not done. I've only scratched the surface. I'm proud to say we're going to begin the process of implementing new housing. We've got the Churchview Gardens project coming up in this spring. We've begun infrastructure, much needed infrastructure improvements, and we've also done some economic development in terms of helping small businesses that were impacted by COVID by providing thousands of dollars of funding for them. So as I've said, I've only begun to scratch the surface of the needs of our community, and my work is not complete, and I would like to finish the job. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to you both for the opening statements. We'll now move on. Again, 1-minute responses to each of the following questions. Starting with, I would like each of you to tell us, starting with you, Ms. Jackson, your top 3 priorities that you are going to tell voters you will address if elected for a 4-year term.
Top 3 priorities. Well, I live in a community here on the South Side that has probably suffered more than any community in the city of Peoria, in that, when I was gone, I came back home and I found out my community had developed the distinction of becoming one of the poorest communities in the country, 61605. I have watched my community go from working class to abstract poverty. And I have not been happy with the conditions. This is one of the reasons that propelled me to run for the 1st District City Council. So I see housing as our #1 priority. We have lost population. As a result of that, we have not been in a position to allow people to buy new homes. Housing, infrastructure, and job readiness, workforce development are my priorities. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Kemper, your top 3 priorities.
All right, thank you. Public safety is #1 priority. I view politics and business and government very similarly. I think of Maslow's triangle, the base of the triangle. We must have a safe place before anything else works. My neighborhood in the Uplands, we have a problem there with traffic, and it is a public safety issue. We have a crazy number of cars coming through there, 100% because of the intersection at Main and University, and we need to deal with it. This is not just an Uplands issue. This is a whole citywide issue. Everybody avoids that intersection. We need to deal with that. We have a big, #2, big upcoming budget issue coming up, and I'm uniquely qualified to help with that. I work with developers around the country to work with cities and development, to bring jobs, to bring new businesses. That is certainly something that I will be doing. Our infrastructure, roads, those are a 3rd priority to me. Thank you.
You want to use one of your 30-second rebuttals now?
Yes.
All right. Okay. 30 seconds for Ms. Jackson.
And I would just like to say, my action plan also included safety. One of the things I instituted was the alley lighting program. We have found out that our neighborhoods have not been properly well lit. And as a result of that, I have been very active in implementing an alley lighting program. As a result of that, some of the residents in the Moss Bradley neighborhood, when they became subject to some of the crime issues, the council decided to dedicate some of the ARPA funds towards environmental design. So what I began here on the South Side has become part of the City Council's project in implementing an environmental design to promote public safety.
All right. Thank you. And we're going to resume our order. Mr. Kemper, the next question starts with you and then to Ms. Jackson on it. And I would like to stay on the issue of public safety for a moment and additional specific steps that you feel the city should pursue to make the entire city safer and reduce the fear of crime throughout the city and in District 1.
Okay. I've been hearing recently from people running for office that the public safety is better than what it was. That's very possible. If you look at other cities like Peoria since COVID, it's been trending that way in many different places. How do we increase this public safety? I think we've got a long road to go on this. I am not the expert at this. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert at this. I do know that our current police chief, I feel that he's doing a great job. Seems like a great guy. I would really look forward to working with him and figuring out how we can make it even better.
Ms. Jackson.
Well, if you look at national statistics, crime is down nationally. It is also down locally. If you go to the city's website, you should find information about crime, violent crimes overall, down in the city of Peoria. Now, notwithstanding, we do have issues in the summer months. Crime is cyclical. It goes up in cities around the country. But for the most part, we don't have the magnitude of some of the problems we witnessed maybe 10 or 15 years ago. We do have hot spots. The police department is concentrated on that, but for the most part, I think Peoria fares fairly well in terms of crime based on those numbers that we've seen in recent years of crime going down. So I'm happy with the progress our chief is making. And I think with the institution of the alley lighting program, active neighborhood associations in and around the city, we've been able to combat those issues. And also by providing our young people with opportunities. I think if you give them opportunities, they tend to find other things to get involved with. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Kemper is asked to use a rebuttal for 30 seconds.
All right, thank you. One thing with public safety, Mayor Ali has the Public Safety Committee, and I've been talking to a gentleman on, his name's War Muhammad. I don't know if you guys know him or not, but in lieu of dealing with the public safety problem on the back end, deal with it on the front end. If you guys know what drill rap is, the concept of rapping, and they say in their rap songs about killing people and they brag about it, deal with that up front. Get the kids not to want that. I think that things like that are the positive for public safety. Thank you.
And Ms. Jackson would like to use her second and final rebuttal to that.
I just want to say some of what we're hearing with regards to music, I think that becomes a parental issue. Parents can be a little bit more proactive about monitoring the activities and the music and the things that their children are involved with. But I don't think that the statistics show that kids actually listening to certain types of music is resulting in them going out and committing crimes. It's just not happening in Peoria, not like that.
Okay, we've had several rebuttals back and forth. I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping the order correctly. Ms. Jackson, you answered second on the most recent question. You are now going to answer first on this next question, followed by Mr. Kemper. And we're going to stay in the realm of safety-related issues. In recent years, the council has had some significant hesitation about granting liquor license requests in the parts of District 1 that include the city's south side. Under what circumstances, if any, would you support liquor license applicants in the MacArthur Business Corridor area?
Good question. I'm not opposed to liquor licenses. We have had instances where people have wanted liquor licenses, but unfortunately in some of those same areas, they've asked for liquor licenses. We have found out that there has been an abundance of establishments that already sell liquor. So I'm concerned about that. Some parts of our community very vulnerable, and as we look to redevelop our major corridors, Western Avenue, MacArthur Avenue, as we look to bring more businesses to our community, we don't want an overabundance or saturation of liquor stores, because I think that can present a problem. If you're talking about trying to attract major businesses, we already have plenty of liquor establishments in our area. So we've got to protect the most vulnerable residents that I think would be most prone to those. So I think those are the things that drive some of our decisions.
All right, and Mr. Kemper.
All right, thank you.
I think those are the things that drive some of our decisions.
All right, and Mr. Kemper.
All right, thank you. Public safety is always number one. So as Denise just mentioned, we need to make sure that whatever establishment is coming to an area, it does not negatively impact that neighborhood. Having said that, I am very pro government staying out of the way of business. If a business wants to be a business and they want to come in, I want to help that be a part of our community. That is where our tax base is increased. That is where we're going to have a budget problem coming up. We need more businesses to sell things, and we need more money for that. I'm also pro jobs. Businesses create jobs. Where there are jobs, there is typically less crime. So although I agree that we need to be careful about what businesses are allowed, I tend to say, hey, business, let's make you profitable and be good to our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Okay, I want to widen the lens here a little bit as we talk about public safety and some of the root causes of crime, and how, as a member of the council, either of you would address some of the larger issues of poverty or lack of opportunity, or lack of access to education that can be those root causes. So Mr. Kemper, then Ms. Jackson.
The root causes of crime. I heard parenting is the base of a lot of this, and we do need to support our parents, give them the resources that they need so that they can be helpful. Education, absolutely. There is tons of educational programs that are out there. We need to be aware of what they are. We need to help people know where to receive those programs. I think that the policing in areas, as I said before, that's a secondary part of crime. Let's deal with where it comes from first. Yes, thank you.
All right, Ms. Jackson.
Well, I have seen it and witnessed it in my own neighborhood, in my own community. I think poverty, and poverty. A lack of education, when you have poverty, when you don't have decent housing, when you don't have jobs in communities, when you watch businesses leave. This all has a negative impact on everybody that lives in that community. So we have to begin to be realistic about looking at what causes crime, poverty. We've got to provide jobs. This is why I have been very adamant about sponsoring the litter patrol every year. We hire upwards of 100 students, and we have so many students that are interested in jobs that we've had to turn them away. So we need to provide jobs, we need to provide education, we have to provide wraparound services, we have to provide adequate food and housing in order to tackle the problem of crime and poverty.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kemper has asked for a 30-second rebuttal. That is his second and final, so all of our rebuttals have been used.
I completely agree with jobs, and I do believe that I am the best candidate to help bring jobs to the Peoria area. As I mentioned before, I work around the country with entrepreneurs, with developers, and making them working between the developer and those groups to make deals, make them comfortable. There's so many businesses that do not come to Peoria because Peoria is not friendly to them. I'm a human that can be that moderator between business and the city.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Jackson, the next question will go to you, then to Mr. Kemper. I referenced in the question on liquor licenses that MacArthur Business Corridor, where millions of dollars of state funds have been allocated for the improvement of that corridor in the south side. What should the city's priorities be there in improving both business and residential conditions along that corridor?
Well, we have to provide decent, affordable housing. Home ownership is a big priority. We have to provide adequate food. We don't have decent grocery stores. We have corner stores. As a result, I'm a teacher. Our kids come to school and naturally the district provides breakfast, but they don't eat healthy. We've got to provide opportunities. We've got to provide things for places for our young people to go. So these are priorities. We've got to provide those resources that are going to support families, that's going to stabilize families, that's going to provide opportunities not only for the children, but also for the parents as well.
All right, Mr. Kemper.
I believe that if you bring in and work with existing businesses, expand those businesses, there will be more jobs. Where there are more jobs, there are more people. And where there are more people with jobs, the places flourish. I've seen it over and over around other communities that I've worked in around the US and in Peoria. And I believe we need to give some attention to the businesses to allow them to thrive and provide higher tax base, more jobs, and with that money coming to those areas, you'll see drastic change.
All right. You are obviously both seeking the job of member of the city council. There are many thousands of people who you would represent in this position. how would you communicate and take input from your constituents if you were to be elected?
Many of them have my cell phone right now, and I would continue with that policy. Have people call me directly anytime. Have people knock on my door, I go knock on theirs. I knocked already on hundreds and hundreds of doors in the first district. I plan to continue that. I would open up forums. I'd go to neighborhood meetings. I like deep listening. That is a quality that I've been working on since I was 26. Might sound a little silly, but I went to this conference and it was 100% about deep listening. That is my process. I listen deeply, I put together creative solutions, and then I work hard to act on them.
Ms. Jackson.
As a neighborhood association president, I have attended neighborhood associations meetings for probably 15 or 20 years now. I think what the residents that live in those communities have to say is important. Oftentimes, elected officials think they know what people need and don't consult the people that are going to be impacted in those communities first and foremost. And so I think it is incumbent to meet with the residents, continue to meet with the residents on a regular basis, as well as business people, and find out what their needs are, find out what they want. Too often we've thrown money in communities thinking we know what they need, only to watch it fail. So I think it's important to have resident input in any plan for whether it's business, whether it's housing redevelopment, whether it's jobs. You've got to keep residents involved. They want those opportunities. They want businesses to come, but they need to be a part of it.
All right. I want to talk about the city council and its overall effectiveness. And you may both have different perspectives as an incumbent and non-incumbent on this, but I would like to know what you view as the greatest success or most effective decision is that the council has made in the last 4 years. Ms. Jackson, starting with you, then to Mr. Kepner.
Well, I am happy, having been a part of the city council, to begin to see the process of rebuilding in our communities. For too long, we have seen one administration after the other move along, but again, the housing stock, the job opportunities in the most vulnerable communities have been forgotten. But I can say with this administration, we're finally beginning to see some real transformative progress in those areas. And I'm excited at the progress that's being made. More than $100 million. $100 million has been spent on capital projects, more than any in the history of the council in recent years. So we are building, we are making progress, and I want to be a part of it as it continues.
All right, Mr. Kepner.
I'm really seeing a lot of great positive direction, warehouse district, riverfront development. It's more than 4 years. It's been 20 years in the making, and to really change something, it takes a long time. And I've been a part of all of that process. I was working with Kurt Huber, the developer for 401 20 years ago. You might remember that was a desolate building, doing nothing for the city. It's been changed. I was part of that process. I was the design director of that, the leader, a vision for that project. You see a lot of other projects going on in that area. I've been a big part of those. And I see the city helping in these projects. I see money set aside by the state for the park along the riverfront. Be great. Main Street, there's some money set aside there. I think that next 4 years, we can see a huge difference in that. And it's all because of the hard work that our city council has done in the past. And I do appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, we've been glass half full. Now we're going to be glass half empty for a moment. What do you think has been the most negatively impactful decision or policy that has come out of the city council in the past 4 years, or biggest missed opportunity?
Biggest missed opportunity.
And Mr. Kemper, Ms. Jackson.
One of the decisions that was made recently that I don't agree with, maybe it's because I don't understand. I don't see government as being good real estate agents. I don't know that we should be going out there and buying buildings. I do realize that the PNC building was being put up for auction. And I still believe in free enterprise before I believe in government taking over things and paying for it and spending our money and spending more money than what the developer actually paid for it. There's many instances of that. In fact, I have a client right now that wants to buy, you guys know the old Hooters building? I have a client that wants to buy that. The city owns it, and I'm having troubles figuring out why my client cannot buy it above market value. So those are some decisions that I see out there. I do not think that the government really should be playing real estate developer. So.
All right, Ms. Jackson.
Could you repeat?
Oh, sure. Sort of the flip side of the previous question, which is what has been sort of either the worst impactful decision or the biggest missed opportunity that the council has had in the past 4 years?
Well, I have, prior to my becoming a member of the council, when I worked as a reporter, one of the things we heard a lot was that the city council, it was hard to do business in the city. And, for a lot of reasons, people had to jump through a lot of hoops and developers and things of that nature. And I think the city has worked very hard to erase itself of that image and has welcomed development. In fact, we have poured millions of dollars into the downtown area, and we realize that downtown Peoria is the jewel of the city. And we have to do everything in our power to make sure that we don't allow situations with lots of vacant buildings. And so we have the Economic Development Council and other groups that are working on behalf of the city to make sure that we can get developers into these buildings sooner rather than later, so that we can move downtown forward and make it the jewel that it is for the city of Peoria.
All right. This can apply both to the first district as well as citywide. What would be your future budget priorities? How can the city better allocate money for economic development then over the next 4 years? Ms. Jackson, Mr. Kepner.
Well, as I said, we've done some things to make ourselves more developer friendly. We're not making it hard to do business in the city of Peoria. We are making it easier, which is why the city got involved with the PNC building. We want people to come. We want to redevelop downtown. We want downtown to once again become a bustling place. It may not be the same downtown it was 30 or 40 years ago, but we have faith in what downtown Peoria can be. And I'm confident that with some of the plans Mayor Ali has with the strategic plan and the direction the city is moving, we will get there. I'm confident of that. It takes time. When you've had years of businesses leaving, it takes time to rebuild and to bring them back. And I believe that we're on the right course.
All right, Mr. Kemper.
I'm going to go back to the other question and talk about a little bit first before I answer this one. The city of Peoria, I've dealt with, as I mentioned many times during this debate. I work with many cities around the country, Peoria one of them. Peoria is not easy to work with. I'm sorry, it's not. The Putt Club across the river, they are across the river because they could not work with the city of Peoria. I believe that I could help that out. I really do. Development, strategic money for development. I believe that we could put some money back into Main Street, change that intersection at Main and University, the one that everybody hates, everybody avoids, comes through my neighborhood because of it. Put it in a TIF district. Work hard with those owners on Main Street. One of them I know, he said, hey, if this is in a TIF district, I will build a building on Main Street. The city does not have to put very much money into it, but I do believe that that is an initiative that I would like to follow through and see happen.
All right, let's stay on Main Street for a minute. And this has been alluded to already, but at least $25 million of state funds have been earmarked for future use to repair Main Street and help redevelop it. That was earmarked 6 years ago, and the city still doesn't have the money. What would you do as a city council member to get that money into the city so we can start work on Main Street? Mr. Kemper, then Ms. Jackson.
We'd talk to our state representatives who I know, and I know Denise knows as well. push them to get that money to us. You are correct. We have that money. We also have the money earmarked for the riverfront development out there as well. We do. I would push as hard as I can, be as loud a mouth as I can to those folks to get that money to us. With those two things, I do believe that would have a very, very large effect on our city, and it's something I believe we really need. So yes, I would push hard to those people at the state level to get that money to us.
Ms. Jackson?
Well, I believe supporting and encouraging more small business development in and around Main Street. Small businesses have been the heart of the economy throughout this nation. I think if we continue to support and strengthen small businesses, other businesses will come. I also believe that we have to continue to push for infrastructure improvements in and around Main Street. Main Street used to be and still is a major corridor going through the city. And I believe that if a combination of supporting small businesses, encouraging more small business development in and around Main Street will bring those other businesses as a result.
All right, thank you. I want to go back to something, and this is a question that comes from the audience here as to what you see as the role of the city in the PHA's Choice Neighborhood project.
Well, the PHA has undergone several changes, and I think right now, under the leadership of Ms. Armica, they are on course to do some wonderful things. And I am very happy about the Choice Neighborhoods project. We had a stagnant period where after the redevelopment of Harrison, the money ran out, and we went through several directors, and Harrison was never finished. But finally, I think with this new administration, they've gotten back on course. They've got plans to do some wonderful housing in and around that area, as well as on the Pivotal Point area. So I'm happy with the progress they're making finally, and I think that the city will continue, as we are currently collaborating with them in this project, to support them as they move housing needs forward.
All right, Mr. Kepner.
As design director of my firm, I will bring, if I'm elected, I would bring a unique set of eyes to things like we're talking about housing. I have done housing all over the place, Peoria included, and I believe that I would be a great candidate to be able to make sure that the quality of this, of what gets built, of what gets designed, what goes out there, is that supports what we need. I think that the program is necessary and is doing great things, and I will do whatever I can to help support this and make it better.
All right. Next question, starting with Mr. Kemper, then to Ms. Jackson. In 2023, one of the issues that the council dealt with was a proposed CO2 pipeline that would travel through large portions of the first district. That proposal, of course, was withdrawn, but it could certainly come back with other development, other changes in the administration, everything else that might affect eligibility. What would you do if you were to be elected should the issue of a CO2 pipeline traveling anywhere through the city, but particularly through the first district, come up again?
I would listen deeply to everybody in the first district, understand what everybody's concerns are, research the subject enormously. That's what I do for a living. I listen to people just like you. I come up with creative solutions and then propose what those solutions are, listen again, and then act upon it, work hard to act upon it. Subjects like this are very complex, and they require a lot of attention and a lot of transparency between the government and yourselves. So what I would do is I would dive deeply into this, listen to you, come back to you with ideas, and listen again.
All right, Ms. Jackson.
Well, I'm glad you brought that question up. I was grateful when the Sierra Club and the Central Illinois Healthy Alliance brought that issue to our attention. I immediately held a news conference because what I was hearing, I was not happy with at all. Communities across the country have suffered devastating effects as a result of projects like that one. And as we heard from the folks that came from Sartasha, Mississippi that were impacted by a pipeline, the advice was to not, to fight it. And I, to this day, have fought it. I live in this community. I've seen the devastating effects of what those kinds of projects can do. You listen to the residents of that community. They don't want it.
We don't want it.
I don't want it. So I think it's incumbent, again, to listen to what the residents in that community, inform them. This is what we are supposed to do as elected officials, inform them, engage them.
Thank you. All right. I also want to address an issue here that can be a broad and significant one, particularly in lower economic areas, and that is the issue of food and nutrition insecurity and what role the city has versus other governmental bodies or volunteer bodies. What role does the city have, do you believe, in addressing food and nutrition insecurity within Peoria? Ms. Jackson, then Mr. Kepner.
Well, I think cities are, since the problem has erupted all around the country, governments are becoming more sensitive to food insecurities. And I'm happy to work with projects like Peoria Grown. It's not enough to just have corner stores. People have to know that they can get access to healthy foods. And one of the things I did, I advocated hard to get some of the ARPA funds for Peoria Grown, which provides Market 309, which provides healthy alternatives to junk food. When people can buy healthy foods, they live longer. So I am happy to advocate on behalf of those projects. They've got a wonderful project, and I hope I will do everything in my power to support it and to see that it continues to thrive until we are able to make the redevelopment plans that we need to do in order to bring people back into our community,
Thank you.
homes, people who can support a grocery store.
Mr. Kemper.
Yeah, I would agree with Denise. We need to support programs that look into this and provide education. Grocery store is a big thing, obviously, that's needed. I do believe there's efforts right now that are occurring to make this happen. The big key is getting the neighborhoods to flourish, getting the small businesses going again, reactivate these places, get people moving and walking along the streets. Then we're going to have a grocery store that succeeds, a business that succeeds in it. I will work as hard as possible, hard as I can, to make that happen in our community.
All right. Next question, starting with Mr. Kemper, then to Ms. Jackson. As the warehouse district has continued to grow, so has the need for parking there. Now, the city recently identified space closer to the river behind the post office that it purchased as a surface lot, but there's still a growing business need for a parking structure within the warehouse district. Would you support the city purchasing and using land and city money for a parking deck in the warehouse district?
Funny you mentioned this. I was a part of a development, 812 Southwest Washington. It's the 8-story apartment building there. We had a developer that I worked with there out of Chicago, then out of Atlanta. They were kind of a funny group, but they had a RDA with the city that the city would provide a parking structure for that project, and that got renegotiated in process. Then Pat Sullivan sold some parking behind the building so that all of that could work. Parking around these apartment areas when they go up is something that I believe the city and other communities has done, and I would support something like what has happened in other cities. Now, the other parts of the warehouse district, I live there, I work there in the warehouse district. I'm there every day. I do not see any parking problem in that area. Around the apartments, yes, but around the business areas and that, I do not see that problem.
All right, Ms. Jackson.
I think it depends upon the development. I used to be on the DDC board, and I think a lot of times, when you're talking about apartment buildings, you know. Sometimes people want parking, if they're looking to put a housing situation, they want to make sure there's available parking. So it's hard to say. I think a lot of times it depends upon the development and what type of development it is. And quite frankly, we do have parking lots that are not full downtown. Peoria is not like Chicago. It's not that big. We don't have that far to walk. So for me, parking is not a serious, the lack of a parking deck is not a serious problem in downtown Peoria. Unless, of course, like I said, if we're talking about somebody who wants to put a big apartment high rise and he wants parking right there for everybody that lives there, and it doesn't happen to be there.
All right, thank you. As we were preparing to start this, I reminded everybody, please feel free to disagree with the premise of the question if you do, and that was a good example of that from both of you. Ms. Jackson, this next question starts with you, then to Mr. Kemper. If elected, you would represent part of the neighborhood around Bradley University. And we're all three alums of that fine institution, but its enrollment has cratered over the last couple of years. And that is likely to bring some changes and challenges to the neighborhoods around there, which have a significant amount of rental housing that is leased to students, as well as housing that is leased to a decreasing number of professors in the area. What would your plans be to ensure that those particular neighborhoods there recently added into the district remain vibrant neighborhoods?
Well, that's a good question. We're seeing some of that now, and that's a problem not unique to Bradley. It's unique to campuses all around the country as a result of COVID and online learning. I think people have a right to live in clean, decent, affordable housing, whether you're a student or whether or not you're a family. And I've heard that some apartments that students formerly lived in, we now have families living in, and some are not so good and some are. But I think it becomes incumbent upon those landlords to make sure that they are providing clean, safe environments for families and students. And I'm a big advocate of that. I have gone to task with a recent company that has several high rises in the city of Peoria, and they put all this money into rehabbing them, but they've taken away the basic support services, and it's just appalling.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kemper.
You're correct. The enrollment is going down. John Michael is the interim president there right now, and he's got plans to help that. And I do believe that we will see enrollment go back here soon at Bradley. The housing around Bradley, it's been decaying for a while. I think that there should be some consideration of putting this into a TIF district, utilizing tax incentive financing, promote developers to come in and rehab these houses that are starting to decay and fall apart. I know my friend Kathy Ma, she's working with a group that gets money. They go in, they buy those houses, and they redo them and sell them to single family and not for rental. So that is happening there currently, right at the corner where Bocce's is at Bradley and Duryea. I know the guy that owns that property, his name's Edison Corey. We have a proposal for a project there. It's a 5-story housing project for Bradley that may occur here soon. So hopefully we can see a turnaround with all of that housing in there, with all of these different things that are on the way.
All right. Just to let everybody in the audience and our candidates know, we're down to about our final 3 questions. If anybody has additional material that they would like to submit, now would be the time to get those questions in. Otherwise, I've got a couple more here focusing on broader city issues, as well as one additional one for our neighborhoods. Again, starting with Mr. Kemper, then to Ms. Jackson. The city spent significant time over the past 4 years dealing with the issue of short-term rental permitting at Airbnb and Verbo homes. Did the city get it right on these rules? And what have you heard from the neighborhoods that you seek to represent?
As I mentioned earlier, I'm not a big fan of government imposing rules on things. There's other communities all around the nation that do Airbnb quite well. What I do agree with is that if you're going to do an Airbnb, the neighbor to the left, the neighbor to the right, the neighbor behind you, they really need to agree with this. There are great examples around the country where Airbnb works great. People come in, they put tons of money into the home, they create a great property there, the taxes on it go up, it spurs other development in the neighborhoods. So I do think that it's worked well in other places, and I think that we could tweak what we do in the city of Peoria so that it would work here.
All right, Ms. Jackson.
I've stayed in an Airbnb. It wasn't here, but it was a wonderful experience, and I'm not opposed to them at all. The city, as we've ventured down this arena, has put some restrictions on the numbers of Airbnbs, and we have historic neighborhoods, old historic neighborhoods, some of which are gorgeous, and sometimes an Airbnb may fit, sometimes it may not. We had a situation where folks came to the council and said, we don't want it out here in Lyndhurst. And they were a large majority. In that case, I went with what the residents wanted. No, they didn't want it. So I think a lot of times residents are not so much opposed to it. They're just concerned about how it may or may not impact or disrupt their neighborhoods.
All right, next question again, we'll start with you, then to Mr. Kemper. And this is the biggie financially for you if you are a member of the city council. The state of Illinois requires that our police and fire pensions be 90% funded by 2040. That is tens of millions of additional dollars that the city needs to come up with in a relatively short time period. Either what cuts or what efficiencies or what tax increases would you support to get to that target? Because you either need more money through cuts or more money through taxes to do it.
Thank you. Well, and there's another option, more money through additional revenue, which we see as a viable option as we look towards the future regarding this problem. So I'm very optimistic based on what I'm seeing that the city will be in a position to deal with that. Now, I don't want to skirt the city's responsibility, but here and again, we've kicked the can down the road and now we have to deal with it. And so the mayor's dealing with it. But I think the city will see some viable revenue options that will provide additional revenue and put it in a good position to be able to deal with that. I'm not opposed. I am opposed to cutting basic services. There's some things that are essential, police, fire, public safety, code enforcement, those things have to remain. So I'm very optimistic as we proceed in the future.
All right, Mr. Kemper.
Maslow's triangle, again, you cannot cut basic services, can't do that. So the cuts, we can cut, but there's only so much you can do there. I don't think there's a whole lot of money to be found there. Taxes in Peoria, that's one way of solving it, raise our taxes. Who out here wants your taxes raised? I don't see any hands out there, do you? No, nobody wants to raise it. You do? All right, excellent. So nobody wants that. We're actually one of the highest per capita tax places in the country. We can't raise the taxes. What we can do, and I'm the best candidate for this, I really am, is to bring new businesses, expand existing businesses, and then expand our tax base, expand the sales tax, expand the number of people in Peoria, bring new people in. That is how we're going to be able to deal with this budget. Frankly, the only foreseeable way of dealing with it that I see, unless you want what New York had in the 1970s, where there was garbage all over the streets and they were firing cops.
All right, we are going to do two more questions. By my count, we have just enough time, so please stick to the 60 seconds. We have one additional question from the audience following up on the discussion over the choice neighborhoods issue. Detail a little more for each of us, please, Mr. Kemper, then Ms. Jackson, your understanding of the project and any personal involvement you have in it, and how you plan to ensure residents are informed and engaged on it.
I have not been involved in it, so I can say I have had zero involvement with this. I'd love to be involved in these things, having Spent 35 years in architecture. I know a little bit about planning things and how things work for domiciles, for houses, how the human condition is, what we need to do in a built form for that. How would I inform people of this? I am an open book. You can call me, you can talk to me, email me. I enjoy talking to people. Hopefully I get a knock on your door.
Right, Ms. Jackson.
Well, I am happy to say that the city is a collaborator in the Choice Neighborhoods Project. And from what I have been made aware of, it's been very, they're proceeding things in a very transparent way. And they are seeking lots of input from community partners as well as residents. And so, I'm confident that what will ultimately result in it will be a project that I think all parties will be happy with.
All right. Final question, and then we'll move to closing remarks. Ms. Jackson, then Mr. Kemper. And in the last 10 days or so, we've kind of learned what's coming from the new administration in Washington regarding immigration and enforcement on immigration-related issues. As a current or prospective member of the city council, tell us, what do you believe the city can or should do to protect the migrant population in Peoria, or to otherwise cooperate with federal government enforcement on those issues? Ms. Jackson.
Thank you for the question. As a teacher, I was disturbed. We got an email this week just kind of informing us that this could be imposed upon Peoria Public Schools students. And I'm happy to say we have protections in place to protect our students from anybody that would seek to come into the building to remove any child for any reason. It won't happen. This country is a country of immigrants, and prior to this administration, governors in Texas and Florida were flying people up north under false pretenses, people from different countries telling them they had jobs, only to find out when they got to these places there were no jobs. They're here. We have to embrace them and provide for them.
Mr. Kemper.
I'm not really certain what we can do as a city to affect whether, I think this is ICE is what we're talking about, ICE coming in and taking people over and doing that. I'm not really sure how that works. I've not been a part of that. I'm just uninformed. So for me to tell you, sit here and say something that's out of my lane, I just don't know. I'd like to learn more about that. It seems a little odd and weird that somebody would just come in and take people out of their homes. I certainly wouldn't be an advocate for that. But I just don't know enough. That's out of my lane. I do not know that the city is able to do much about that. If they are, hey, I'd be all for protecting people.
Better get informed.
All right.
Okay.
And closing remarks now from the candidates. Mr. Kemper, then Ms. Jackson. No, you answered that question second.
Oh, okay.
So now you
got it.
yeah.
Perfect. All right. So I'd like to tell you why I'm running for office. My neighbor is the Uplands. Okay. So who out there avoids Maine and University? Okay. Come on, or other people do too. All right, over there, you avoid. Everybody avoids that. And I asked people around Peoria, they all avoid it. Where do they go? They go down Columbia Terrace. They divert through my neighborhood, hundreds of cars a day. It used to be a peaceful neighborhood that we have here, and it is no longer. And it is a public safety nuisance, but kids cannot go in the front yard. I would like to change Main Street back the way it was, and I think that would be a big benefit to many people in Peoria, especially my neighborhood.
Ms. Jackson.
Well, I must say, I had said 3 years ago when I got elected, I had mentioned that I would not seek re-election if I did not see real transformative changes. And I'm happy to say we have seen real change. And one of the biggest challenges for me once I became an elected official was getting used to the slow pace at which the wheels of government turn. When you are elected to public office, oftentimes you're planning for projects 2 years down the road. I'm happy to say that a lot of what I listed in my action plan: public safety, alley lighting, sewer, stormwater projects have been implemented in communities. Kickapoo Terrace Road redevelopment. We've demolished 2 old schools. We've got the Churchview housing development project slated to start just a few blocks from here within this spring. And so part of what I want to accomplish has only been done. I need 4 more years to complete the work, and I'd appreciate your vote on April. I need 4 more years to complete the work, and I'd appreciate your vote on April 1st.
All right, and now I want to offer both our candidates and democracy overall a round of applause. Thank you to both candidates for joining us. Thank you to not only the league, but our partners at the library for allowing us to use this space during the event. This entire forum is going to be available on our YouTube channel, League of Women Voters of Greater Peoria. If you want to share it with your friends, go ahead and do that. But most importantly of all, don't forget to vote. City council elections are notoriously low turnout elections, and a very few number of votes can make a difference between the candidate elected and the candidate not elected. Make sure you vote. This race, as we mentioned, is in the general election. Before that occurs, there's a primary election for a number of other races, including mayor, taking place February 25th. All the candidates from the primary and those going directly to the general will be on that ballot for the general election. Election day for that, April 1st. Early voting begins March 17 for the general election. Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.